ocean explodes. Not ahead of you, not behind you, all around you. A perfect geometric pattern of splashes, 24 of them, erupting from the black Atlantic water like the fingers of some massive hand reaching up from hell itself. Your Captain Bernhard Mueller, 31 years old. Iron Cross First Class pinned to your chest. 7 Allied merchant ships to your name, 38,000 tons sent to the bottom. You've survived 18 months of patrol in the most dangerous waters on Earth. You know every sound the ocean makes, every trick the enemy uses, every way to stay alive when death is hunting you from above. But you've never seen this. You scream the order, crash, dive, all hands brace for impact. Too late. The first projectile punches through your conning tower like it's made of paper. 400 meters per second, 1 kilogram of shaped explosive. It detonates on contact with your pressure hull, and suddenly your world is spinning, filling with ice-cold seawater, and you taste blood in your mouth and your ears are screaming from the concussion. Your submarine, U-672, your home for 6 months, your weapon, your fortress, is coming apart around you. 94 seconds. That's how long you have left to live. The question is, what just killed you, and why didn't you see it coming? Stay with me because this story isn't just about one submarine or one weapon. It's about the moment when an entire way of warfare became obsolete overnight. When courage, skill, and experience stopped mattering. When technology didn't just change the game, it ended it. Let me take you back. Back to before the explosion. Back to when Bernhard Mueller still believed he was the hunter instead of the prey. May 23, 1943. The North Atlantic, about 540 kilometers southwest of Ireland. The sea is calm, too calm. Mueller stands in U-672's conning tower, scanning the horizon through his Zeiss binoculars, and that feeling is back. That instinct. The one that's kept him alive when so many others have died. And let me tell you something about the odds Mueller is facing. By May 1943, being a U-boat commander is essentially a death sentence. In the first 5 months of this year alone, the Germans have lost over 100 submarines. May, this month, the month Mueller is living through right now, will go down in history as Black May. 43 U-boats sunk, over 1,000 submariners dead. A mortality rate that would make bomber crews look like they have safe jobs. But Mueller doesn't know that yet. He just knows that something feels wrong. Below him, 48 men move through U-672 with the practiced efficiency of a crew that's been together for over a year. This isn't some rookie boat with green sailors. 42 of these men have served with Mueller for at least 2 years. They trust him because he's brought them home alive, patrol after patrol, when other boats haven't come back. U-672 is a Type WWII submarine, the workhorse of the German Kriegsmarine. She can dive to 200 meters. Stay submerged for 36 hours on battery power. She's fast, maneuverable, and deadly. 6 torpedo tubes, 4 in the bow, 2 in the stern. 14 torpedoes total, enough firepower to devastate a convoy. The problem is, by 1943, getting close enough to use those torpedoes is becoming nearly impossible. Mueller learned this the hard way. Back in late 1942, in November alone, German U-boats sank 119 Allied merchant ships. 700,000 tons. It was a slaughter. The British were weeks away from actual starvation. The Americans were losing ships faster than they could build them. Germany was winning the Battle of the Atlantic, then something changed. Mueller's heard the rumors, whispered conversations in the officers' mess at Lorient submarine base. Something about new Allied detection methods, improved radar, secret weapons. Rumors don't sink ships, so Mueller focuses on what he knows, how to hunt, how to kill, how to survive. Then he hears it, not through the hydrophones, through the air, multiple splashes in the water around them, distinct, deliberate, like someone's dropping stones in a perfect pattern. Hydrophone operator, Mueller barks into the voice pipe. Immediate report, what are we hearing? The response crackles back. Herr Kapitän, instruments show nothing, no ship signatures, no aircraft engines, just. The splashes. Mueller's jaw tightens. In 18 months of combat, he's encountered depth charges, aircraft attacks, destroyer hunts. He understands the logic of every threat. But this doesn't make sense. Hard to starboard, dive to 60 meters, silent running, now. Below deck, the alarm blares, the crew doesn't hesitate. The diesel engines cut off, electric motors engage. U-672's bow tilts downward. Every man knows the drill, complete silence, no talking. No unnecessary movement. Even your breathing has to be controlled because sound carries underwater and sound can kill you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew danger was close but couldn't identify it? Where every instinct screams at you to run but you don't know which direction is safe? That's where Mueller is right now. Down in the hydrophone room, a young sailor named Werner Holst presses his headphones tight against his ears. 20 years old. This is his third patrol. He's gotten good at reading the ocean sounds, the difference between a whale and a propeller, between a distant storm and an approaching destroyer. Right now, he's hearing something that makes his blood run cold. "Herr Captain," he reports, voice steady despite the fear. "Destroyer contact, single screw, bearing red 135, 18 knots, distance approximately 4,000 meters. It's a modern escort moving with military precision." Mueller processes this instantly. A destroyer means a convoy nearby, and a convoy means targets. This is why he came to the Atlantic, to find moments exactly like this, to strike at the supply lines that keep Britain in the war. "Full stop," Mueller orders. "All crew to minimum noise, we wait." The U-boat goes silent, 48 men breathing carefully, waiting. Time moves differently when you're submerged and a destroyer is hunting overhead. Every minute feels like an hour. Every sound could be the last thing you hear before depth charges start falling. Werner continues his reports. "Twin screws now. British Flower-class corvette, 3,000 meters, still closing." A Flower-class. Mueller knows these ships, small escorts about 1,000 tons, designed specifically to hunt submarines, not particularly fast but persistent, armed with depth charges and sonar, dangerous but manageable if you're smart. What Mueller doesn't know, what he can't know, is that the destroyer isn't alone. Behind it, HMS Oriole is maneuvering into position. Above, vectored by radio intercepts of U-672's position reports from days earlier, a Lockheed Hudson patrol aircraft is altering its course to overfly his position at dusk. The trap is closing. Mueller just doesn't see it yet. Can you imagine that? Being in a steel tube 200 feet underwater, knowing a warship is directly above you, and your only defense is to sit perfectly still and pray they don't hear you. The tension in U-672 is suffocating. Not from lack of oxygen, though that's always a concern, but from the knowledge that 48 lives depend on absolute silence. One dropped wrench, one cough, one mechanical failure. Any of those could produce enough sound for the destroyer's sonar to lock onto. Mueller sits in his command chair, hands relaxed on the table, face expressionless. His crew needs to see confidence. But inside, he's running calculations. The destroyer will pass overhead in approximately 4 minutes. If they detect us, we have maybe 30 seconds before the first depth charges hit the water. At 60 meters depth, we're in the kill zone. One close detonation could rupture the pressure hull, and then we're dead, crushed by the Atlantic or drowned trying to reach the surface. "Distance 500 meters, Werner whispers. The destroyer's propellers are audible now even without hydrophones. That characteristic churn of a steam turbine, you can feel the vibration through the hull. "Distance 200 meters directly overhead." This is the moment. This is when destroyers attack. Every man in U-672 is holding his breath. The destroyer passes overhead, and nothing happens. The propeller noise fades. Werner's voice carries a note of disbelief. "Destroyer moving away, no attack pattern, we're clear." Mueller releases a breath he didn't know he was holding. "They didn't detect us. Our position remains secret. In another hour, when darkness comes, we can risk surfacing for a night attack. That's all he needs. One opportunity. One perfect firing solution." "Maintain silent running," he orders. "Continuous monitoring. Report any changes." What Mueller doesn't know is that HMS Oriole is ahead, waiting. What he doesn't know is that he has approximately 6 hours left to live. Let me pause here and give you some context, because you need to understand what's really happening in the Atlantic in May 1943. The U-boat war isn't just turning against Germany, it's collapsing, and the Germans don't fully understand why. See, submarine warfare in 1942 was straightforward. U-boats would surface at night when they were invisible to aircraft and nearly invisible to ships. They'd race ahead of convoys using their diesel engines, which made them faster than most cargo vessels. They'd line up perfect shots, fire torpedoes, dive, escape, repeat. It was devastatingly effective. Britain was weeks away from starvation. American Liberty ships were being sunk faster than they could be built. But by 1943, something fundamental has changed. The Allies have developed an integrated system of anti-submarine warfare that's unlike anything the world has seen before. It's not one weapon. It's not one technology. It's a complete network, high-frequency direction finding, called Huff Duff, that can locate a U-boat by its radio transmissions from hundreds of miles away. Centimetric radar that can detect a surface submarine at 30 kilometers, even in complete darkness, even in storms. Escort carriers, small aircraft carriers that travel with convoys, providing air cover where land-based planes can't reach. Improved sonar that can track submarines underwater with unprecedented accuracy. And something new, something the Germans haven't encountered yet. Something that's about to make every tactic in the U-boat playbook obsolete. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Full darkness arrives at 20:30 hours. Mueller orders U-672 to surface. The ballast tanks blow. The deck vents open. The submarine rises through the dark water, and Mueller feels that familiar transition from submarine to surface vessel, from slow and vulnerable to fast and deadly. On the surface at night, a U-boat is a hunter with every advantage. You're low to the water, hard to spot. Your diesels give you speed. Your prey can't see you coming. The conning tower breaks the surface. Mueller is already climbing up, his eyes adjusted to darkness after an hour submerged. The night air hits his face, cold, salty, alive. After breathing recycled air for hours, it's intoxicating. And there on the horizon, he sees them, 7 merchant ships, maybe 30 kilometers away, faintly visible against the stars. No moon tonight, perfect hunting conditions. The destroyer is still visible as a shadow to the north, too far away to be an immediate threat. Battle stations, Mueller commands. Prepare all torpedo tubes for attack. The order ripples through U-672. Below deck, the torpedo crew races to their stations. First Officer Klaus Schellinger begins calculating the firing solution, speed, distance, angle, the geometry of death. Mueller raises his binoculars. He can see the lead merchant vessel clearly now. British freighter, maybe 3,000 tons. Behind it, a larger cargo ship, then another. This convoy represents perhaps 22,000 tons of Allied supplies, fuel, ammunition, food, weapons, everything needed to continue the war against Germany. Every ton Mueller sinks is a ton that won't reach Britain. He doesn't think about the merchant sailors who will die. He thinks about the war, about Germany's survival, about doing his duty. Estimate 12,000 meters to nearest vessel, Schellinger reports. Destroyer bearing Red 340, 8,000 meters distant, moving northeast. Solution ready in 30 seconds. Mueller watches the merchant ships. At this distance, his torpedoes will take approximately 2 minutes to reach their targets. The destroyer will take at least 5 minutes to react. If the first torpedo strikes home, he'll have time to fire again. 2 ships, maybe 3. Then dive and escape before the escorts can reach firing range. It's perfect. Everything is perfect. Solution ready, Herr Captain? Mueller raises his hand. This is the moment. This is why he's here. First salvo, all bow tubes, fire. The torpedoes leave their tubes with that familiar compressed air hiss. 2 Type WWII G7E electric torpedoes running at 35 knots toward the convoy. Silent killers. In 2 minutes, the first merchant ship will explode. Mueller turns to give orders for the second salvo. And then the sea around him explodes. Not ahead where the merchant ships are. Not from the destroyer behind them. All around U-672. A pattern of enormous splashes erupting from the water in a perfect geometric arrangement. Directly in front, directly behind, to port, to starboard. 24 splashes. A constellation of violence. Mueller has never seen anything like it. In 18 months of combat, through depth charge attacks and aircraft strafing runs and destroyer hunts, he's never seen this. Crash dive, he screams. Hard to starboard, all hands brace for impact. But there's nowhere to dive. The water is 300 meters deep here. The splashes aren't depth charges, they're not arcing down and exploding below. There's something else, something hitting the water at extreme velocity. The first projectile strikes the conning tower. It's small, maybe 1 kilogram, but it's traveling at 400 meters per second. It punches through the steel plating of the conning tower like a rifle bullet through cardboard. The projectile detonates on contact with the pressure hull below. Mueller feels the impact more than hears it. A wrenching, tearing sensation as the structure of his boat is violated. He's falling. The world is spinning. He tastes blood. His ears are ringing from the concussion. Around him, U-672 is coming apart. The conning tower is filling with seawater. The superstructure has been torn open in 3 places. Below deck, the forward torpedo room has been breached. Water is pouring in. Men are screaming. The boat is tilting. The pressure that kept the Atlantic at bay is now being violated in dozens of locations simultaneously. Mueller pulls himself toward the voice pipe. Flood all compartments. Get the men up. We are sinking. This is no longer submarine warfare. This is slaughter. The second pattern of projectiles arrives. Then the third. Then the fourth. Each one a self-propelled, contact-detonating warhead. Each one designed specifically to penetrate submarine hulls. Each one representing a technology that Mueller, despite 18 months of combat, doesn't know exists. He doesn't know it's called the Hedgehog. He doesn't know it's a forward-throwing mortar system that fires 24 projectiles in a circular pattern ahead of the attacking ship. He doesn't know that, unlike depth charges, which explode at a preset depth whether they hit anything or not, Hedgehog projectiles only detonate on contact with a submarine. He doesn't know that this means the attacking ship never loses sonar contact. because the charges don't create a massive underwater explosion that blinds their instruments. He doesn't know that this single weapon system has fundamentally changed the mathematics of submarine warfare. He only knows that he's dying, that his boat is dying, that his men are dying. Werner Halst, the young hydrophone operator, is in the forward compartment when the hull breaches. The water hits him like a freight train, ice cold, crushing. He has maybe 10 seconds to reach the escape hatch. He never makes it. 20 years old. Third patrol. He drowns in darkness 300 meters from the surface, still wearing his headphones. Klaus Schellinger, the first officer, is blown backward by the concussion of the third impact. His back slams against the navigation table. Something inside him breaks, ribs, spine, something vital. He tastes copper. He tries to move and can't. The water rising around him is the last thing he sees. 12 men die in U-672. Not quickly, not cleanly. Trapped in flooding compartments, crushed by pressure, drowned in the dark. Their names will be recorded in German naval records. Their families will receive letters, but their deaths happen in screaming darkness 300 feet below the surface where no one can hear them. U-672 sinks in 94 seconds. Mueller and 36 men reach the water as the boat slips beneath the surface. The water is 3 degrees Celsius, brutally cold. Not cold enough to kill immediately, but cold enough that hypothermia will begin within an hour. Mueller floats on a piece of wooden grating, his uniform saturated, his body already losing heat to the Atlantic. Around him, men are screaming, crying, praying. Some are calling for their mothers. Some are silent, shocked beyond words. Then searchlights cut through the darkness. HMS Oriole appears first, the corvette that had been coordinating the attack. British sailors throw life nets into the water. Mueller grabs one. He pulls himself up hand over hand, his fingers numb. A British sailor, seeing his German uniform, helps drag him onto the deck anyway. 20 minutes later, the escorts have recovered all 36 survivors. 12 men are dead or missing, 12 out of 48. Those are actually good odds for a U-boat sinking. Usually, no one survives. Mueller finds himself on the deck of HMS Sharpshooter, wrapped in a British naval blanket, shaking from cold and shock. His boat is gone. His men are dead. His war is over. An older British officer approaches. Royal Navy Captain James McIntyre, commanding the escort group. He speaks German, which surprises Mueller. "Your boat was caught by our newest weapon," McIntyre says, not unkindly. "We call it the Hedgehog, forward-firing mortar system. When you surfaced for your night attack, we detected you on sonar. We fired 24 shaped charges in a geometric pattern around your position." He pauses, letting that sink in. "You never had a chance." Let me stop here and explain what just happened, because this is where the story gets really interesting. The Hedgehog isn't revolutionary because of its explosive power. Depth charges are far more powerful. A single depth charge contains 300 pounds of Torpex explosive. A Hedgehog projectile, 35 pounds. But here's what makes the Hedgehog absolutely devastating. Traditional depth charges have to be dropped behind the attacking ship. You sail over where you think the submarine is, roll the charges off the stern, and hope. The problem? The moment you drop those charges, your sonar is useless. The massive explosions create so much noise underwater that you're essentially blind. The submarine can maneuver and you have no idea where it went. You're hunting blind. Dropping charges and praying, the Hedgehog fires forward ahead of the ship. The projectiles arc out in a circular pattern, splashing down 250 feet in front of the attacking vessel. And here's the critical part: they only explode on contact with a submarine. No contact, no explosion, which means your sonar stays clear. You can still hear the submarine, you can track its movements, you can fire again, and again, and again. It transforms submarine hunting from guesswork into science. Captain McIntyre continues his explanation, and Mueller listens with the numb fascination of a man who's just seen his entire world collapse. "This is the third U-boat we've sunk with Hedgehog in 3 weeks," McIntyre says. "The message will reach your high command soon enough. The old rules of submarine warfare are finished. Your boats can no longer hunt convoys on the surface at night. You can no longer use darkness as cover. We can see you, track you, kill you without ever losing contact." Mueller understands. He understands with absolute clarity. Every U-boat commander in the Atlantic has believed that night surface attacks were their fundamental advantage. The escorts couldn't see you. The convoy couldn't see you. Only your periscope needed to see them. This has been the doctrine for 3 years, since the beginning of the war. But the Hedgehog fundamentally changes that dynamic, not through superior firepower. Through superior systems, a weapon that doesn't require losing sonar contact, a weapon that doesn't rely on prediction or luck, a weapon that turns the U-boat's traditional advantage, the ability to attack from darkness, into a fatal vulnerability. Mueller realizes something even deeper. something that will take the German Naval High Command another month to understand if they ever truly do. The Hedgehog isn't the weapon. The Hedgehog is just one piece of a comprehensive system. That night, sitting in the captain's cabin of HMS Sharpshooter, still shaking, Mueller pieces it together. High-frequency direction finding located U-672 by its radio transmissions when it reported its position to U-boat headquarters days earlier. That put Allied forces in the general area. Centimetric radar detected U-672 when it surfaced, confirming its exact position even in total darkness. That gave the escorts precise coordinates. Improved sonar tracked U-672 underwater, following its movements even when submerged. That eliminated the submarine's primary defensive advantage. Coordinated convoy tactics meant multiple escorts working together, communicating by radio, sharing information. No single ship hunting alone. And when U-672 surfaced for its attack, when Mueller made the tactically correct decision based on 3 years of successful U-boat doctrine, the Hedgehog was waiting. Each technology made the others more effective. Direction finding told them where to look. Radar confirmed the target. Sonar tracked the submarine's movements. Coordinated tactics prevented escape. And the Hedgehog delivered the killing blow without disrupting the system. There was no counter-tactic, no evasion. No way out. The mathematics were simple and brutal. A U-boat that chose to attack had to surface. A surfaced U-boat could be detected by radar. A detected U-boat could be tracked by sonar. And a tracked U-boat facing a Hedgehog-equipped escort was a dead U-boat. The advantage had shifted entirely to the defender. Do you understand what this means? This isn't about one weapon being better than another. This is about an entire mode of warfare becoming obsolete overnight. Everything the Germans had learned about submarine tactics since 1939, all the experience, all the training, all the courage, rendered irrelevant by a system they didn't even know existed. Admiral Karl Dönitz, commander of the U-boat fleet, wouldn't understand this. Not really. He would interpret Black May, when 43 U-boats were sunk and over 1,000 submariners died, as a shortage of boats. He would push for more construction, more patrols, more attacks. More men sent to die in a war they couldn't win because the enemy had changed the rules of the game. But Mueller, sitting in that cabin on May 24, 1943, knowing that 36 men had been pulled alive from the water and 12 had died in the dark, Mueller understood the truth. Technology wasn't an enhancement to war. Technology was war. And Germany had lost the technological race in the Atlantic. Bernhard Mueller spent the next 2 years in British and Canadian prisoner of war camps. He survived the war. He survived the peace. He returned to Germany in 1947 to find his country destroyed, divided, occupied. In later years, he gave interviews about his experiences, and he always came back to May 23, 1943, the night when submarine warfare fundamentally changed. We believed that courage, training, and determination could overcome any disadvantage, Mueller said in a 1967 interview. The Hedgehog taught us that we were wrong. Technology was not an enhancement to war. It was war itself. Every ship we built, every tactic we developed, every brave man we sent to sea, it could all be rendered obsolete overnight by an enemy system that was more advanced. That's the insight most German officers never grasped. They blamed bad luck. Insufficient resources, poor intelligence, but Mueller understood it was systems, integration, the Allies' ability to combine every technological advantage into one comprehensive anti-submarine warfare network that made individual courage irrelevant. Think about that. Individual courage made irrelevant. How many wars throughout history had been decided by bravery, by determination, by the willingness to die for your cause? And now, suddenly, none of that mattered if the enemy had better technology. The Hedgehog wasn't just a weapon. It was a message. The age of the submarine wolf pack was over. The age of integrated technological warfare had begun. By the end of 1943, over 250 U-boats had been sunk. The Atlantic convoy routes were secure. Britain would not starve. American supplies flowed freely to England and the Soviet Union. The tide of the war had turned, not through courage or determination, but through superior systems integration. And somewhere in all those numbers, all those sunken U-boats, all those drowned submariners, is Werner Holst, 20 years old, 3rd Patrol, who died in the dark wearing his headphones. Is Klaus Schellinger, 1st Officer, who drowned with a broken back while the water rose around him. Are 12 men whose names are recorded in German naval archives, but whose deaths happened in screaming darkness where no one could hear them. They died because their commanders didn't know that the enemy had changed the rules. They died because courage couldn't overcome technology. They died because they were fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's tactics in a world that had already moved on. So here's my question for you. How many wars are we still fighting with yesterday's understanding? How many times do we rely on courage, determination, and experience, not realizing that the game has fundamentally changed? Bernhard Müller learned this lesson in 94 seconds on May 23, 1943. 12 of his men paid for that lesson with their lives. The Hedgehog killed U-672. But it was the system, the integration of radar, sonar, direction finding, coordinated tactics, and forward-throwing mortars that killed the U-boat as an effective weapon of war. One submarine, one night, one weapon system, and an entire mode of warfare rendered obsolete. If you found Müller's story compelling, hit that like button and subscribe. We're dedicated to bringing you the forgotten moments of World War II, the stories of men who discovered too late that technology defeats courage, that systems defeat tactics, and that the rules of war can change overnight. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? And what forgotten World War II story would you like to see next? Your engagement helps us continue bringing these untold stories to light. Because history isn't just about who won and who lost. It's about understanding why. And sometimes the why is as simple and as terrifying as this: they had better technology, and we didn't even know it existed until it killed us. Remember Müller, remember Werner, remember Klaus, remember the 12 men who died in the dark, and remember that in war, as in life, the deadliest enemy is the one you never see coming. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.